There's a video that circulated today of Alvaro Barrington discoursing slash discussing how the art world, the ecosystem, and those within it practice a practice hatred toward the artist, and a love for the system. And it got me thinking about how many artists are bullied out of articulating themselves in a way that embraces the full breadth of their rawness, even if they're critiquing the system of which they are participating in. And I often find that if you have occupied an institution as well, it is ingrained in you to not necessarily push back. And if you do push back, certain languages are used to essentially sugarcoat the fact that, yes, you can, but these will be the consequences if you do. So there are some texts that I'd like to excerpt from current books that I'm reading that reflect somewhat what Alvaro Barrington is expressing, um, relating more to race versus artist to institution. But nonetheless, the comparisons and the tensions, I believe, still uh, they still mimic the system. They still mimic it. And I just want to share those to see if other people can also um, feel those connections. But I'm going to play the video first. Okay. Turn my volume up.
But I do think the art industry has embedded in it a kind of hatred of the artist and a love of the system, which is really weird because I thought you became an artist because you wanted to challenge the system, not defend the system. It's like that's what punk is all about. That's what hip hop is all about. And then somehow it just became the opposite. It became like we're gonna hate the artist who just goes, "This is what I'm experiencing." So, but I'm hoping that we fight more for artists to be vulnerable.
So I see that video and I was like, I have to save that because it's a consistent discussion that's happening and there's lots of discourse around it, so much so that I do believe as an artist, there's also like another world that exists. There's multiple worlds that exist. But another one that I like to bring up is the close friends world. And the close friends world of artists exists because on the main timeline, you're unable to critique these things without there being repercussions for your actions or the fear of losing opportunities that haven't even been presented to you. And this could be quite frustrating because then you are limited as an artist to only create or aestheticize things or topics in a way that almost makes you invisible. And you are put in a position to where you must silence yourself, which is frustrating. Um, and many artists are looking for other artists to become vulnerable. And I have another, not so much a critique, but it's like a tangential thought, a thought that goes in tandem with this as well. I'm going to read it verbatim because I sent it to my Genius update chat on Instagram. Uh, it's a, yeah, the channel. And essentially, let's see what I wrote. But I said, okay, I shared the video because I agree with the video. And then I had a tandem thought. And it was, I wake up each day believing I'm skating on thin ice. There's not a day that goes by since entering into institutional spaces where I ask myself, am I doing too much? And it's really me internalizing projections and settler mindsets And just when I think I'm doing too much, there's an artist publicly speaking for vulnerability, Alvaro Barrington. But often I beg, despite agreeing, when will artists stop asking artists to be the punk or the hip hop and simply embody it? Not to say that Barrington is not embodying it, but that's just something else that I note too. It's almost like when I see posts on social media where people are saying, who's going to be the next Malcolm X? Who's going to be the next MLK, the next Davis, Angela Davis, uh, the next everyone's looking for the next person to essentially sacrifice himself, and that's what I put. I said everyone's waiting for someone to sacrifice themselves first and then champion them after that death, whether that's an economic death, a physical death, a social media death, a spiritual death, and so forth. um, and it's almost, to me, it's like, why wait? And you're waiting because you don't want to be the one to cast that first stone at the institution because you still want to reap certain benefits that you believe exist just for you. Uh, yeah, but I'm going to read. This is from The Undercommons, Fugitive Planning and Black Study by Stefano Harney and Fred Moten. I've been slowly reading this text. I'm probably going to be mentioning this text for quite some time, for years, right? Uh, but it's from this section, governance. Let's just go to, so you know, Blackness and governance. And so for section 16, it says, the Soviets used to say that the United States had free speech, but no one could hear you over the noise of the machines. In this instance, I'm likening the machines to uh, the art world, the ecosystem of the art world, institutions as not only environment, but person, because people can perpetuate institutional systems of domination, oppression, or power. And they go on to say, today, no one can hear you over the noise of talk. Maurizio Lazzarato, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. It's probably Italian, but I'm in Spain, so I'm making it Spanish. Says immaterial labor is loquacious and industrial labor was mute. Governance populations are gregarious. Gregariousness is the exchange form of immaterial labor power, a labor power summoned by interest from a communicability without interest, a viral communicability, a beat. The compulsion to tell us how you feel is a compulsion of labor. Me, right now. Like I seen the video and I literally feel compelled to invest myself. And this is, I mean, this is fun for me, but it is laborious, to say the least. Is the compulsion of labor not citizenship? Exploitation, not domination. And it is whiteness. Whiteness is why Lazzarato does not hear industrial labor. Whiteness is nothing but a relationship to Blackness as we have tried to describe it here. But in particular, a relationship to Blackness and its relationship to capital, which is to say, the movement from muteness to dumb insolence, which may be by way of bringing the noise, but the noise of talk, white noise, the information rich environment of the gregarious, comes from subjectivities formed of objectified labor. These are the subjectivities of interest, subjectivities of labor power, whose potentialities are already bounded by how they will be spent and mute to their Blackness. This is the real muteness of industrial labor, and it is the real gregariousness of immaterial labor. Governance is the extension of whiteness on a global scale. So when I seen the video, I was like, there's something in here. I mean, there's a lot in here that can touch on how artists feel, I would say, stifled. Um, and there is what I like to say a psychological arrest, a material arrest And the material arrest is you not being able to express yourself, articulate yourself in the mediums that you use. It's a immaterial arrest. It's an energy, it's a frequency. It is the extension of whiteness on a global scale. You are, some artists become stuck physically because they're meditating. I am meditating on what is possible in the sphere that I'm occupying, in the spaces that I occupy, and the spaces that I want to occupy. And if you're not already in the space, if you are in the space right now, you have to grapple with that. You're put in a position to have to grapple with that because that aggressive governance is like a murky cloud over you. Uh, Further, I just started reading Wretched of the Earth. Still race, but it's still for me like the powers, the exercise is still incredibly relevant. Here we have black and white. Here we have native versus settler. All right. In this instance, the native is the artist. The settler are the institutions, but also whiteness on a global scale. This is coming from the chapter concerning violence, which is chapter 1. Okay, the first section I have is where am I highlighting? I could read this all. Fuck it. We ball. Let's read it all. The colonial world is a world cut in two, the dividing line. The frontiers are shown by barracks and police stations. In the colonies, it is man and the soldier who are the official, instituted go-betweens, the spokesman of the settler and his rule of oppression. In capitalist societies, the educational system, whether lay or clerical, the structure of moral reflexes handed down from father to son, the exemplary honesty of workers who are given a medal after 50 years of good and loyal service, and the affection which springs from harmonious relations and good behavior. All these aesthetic expressions of respect for the established order serve, oh, let me go back. All these aesthetic expressions of respect for the established order serve to create around the exploited person an atmosphere of submission and of inhibition, which lightens the task of policing considerably. So, reading this, or this made that video made me think of this passage as well as the passage after. When I see policemen, I just think of like art handlers, galleries, museums. When you walk in, I've worked in galleries. I have been in the presence of people who their agency has been defined by this type of policing and the governance. Let me read it verbatim. And that type of governance, it's a practice of whiteness as a system. It is a practice of hatred and a practice of bullying. Those are the clerks. I got to read it from okay. In the colonial countries, on the contrary, the policeman and the soldier, by their immediate presence and their frequent and direct action, maintain contact with the native and advise him by means of rifle butts and napalm not to budge. This is, if you do this, we will do this. If you say this, we will do this. If you post this, we will do this. And sometimes it doesn't even have to actually be said verbatim because it's been so ingrained in the culture. At some point, it literally just becomes psychological arrest. It becomes immaterial. They don't even have to come touch you or hold you or say anything. It's ingrained in you psychologically to where you don't even make a move. And if you do make a move on the board, it's a scared move, or it's a confident move to ensure that your comforts are not jeopardized. It's literally, which is why I always go back to this, professionalization is the privatization of the social individual through negligence. It is neglect. It's literally just neglect. My rawness is neglected. My hip hopness is neglected. My punkness is neglected. My blackness is neglected. Period. Where'd I leave off? Okay. It is obvious here that the agents of government speak the language of pure force. The intermediary does not lighten the oppression, nor seek to hide the domination. This is how I feel sometimes when I go on websites, university websites, museum websites, gallery websites, and there is an ethos, right, that supposedly, allegedly, they abide by. Some do, some do not. It's all phraseology. Um, the intermediary does not lighten the oppression, nor seek to hide the domination. He shows them up and puts them into practice with the clear conscience of an upholder of the peace. It's language play, it's politics, yet he is the bringer of violence into the home and into the mind of the native. I can, these books are so good that honestly, I could just sit with a lot of the text longer, and I will and intend to. But I seen the video and I just started to think how it just becomes immaterial. You can't even, sometimes you can't even see it. And when you do see it, you recognize that language, the language that is being played is political language. That's from Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. So I appreciate Alvaro Barrington sharing that video. I mean, there's so many artists out here that are communicating how and what their experiences have been. And so they're actively, avidly searching for spaces to occupy where their minds do not have to experience that psychological arrest. Physically, that physical arrest, the frequency you feel when you're in a space occupied by others who have conjured a hatred for you as the artist because you would like to articulate certain things, either retrospectively or currently right now. I'm literally in EU, in Europe right now, and there's still systems, European systems that I'm critiquing. But ironically, I felt like I needed to come here to psychologically rid my mind of these different types of arrests so I can just create. Who's to say if I would have began talking to my camera, to the geniuses here, if I was still in the States? Ironically, I also felt in the States that there was just so much pushback, there was so much tension. And so I needed to find a different space to occupy. Um, Even when I was in London, that was a new space. I could think about other things. Uh, I was not so overcome with what I could not do, even though I was still experiencing those institutional powers that exist. Uh, I decided that I didn't want to experience that anymore, and I took that same energy and can practice that anywhere now. So if you're an artist out there and you're experiencing some hateration and they doing all that holleration, um, lock in for real. It is going to take more than an ounce of bravery, more than an eighth of bravery to continue to articulate yourself in a way that you believe represents not only you best, but whatever it is that you're talking about best. People, places, spaces, whatever, things. Get out there and do it. Read the literature. Remain grounded and centered here. Grounded, centered here, no matter where you are, grounded, centered here, breath work. Because you're the artist. There are stories that you want to tell, whether they're 100% factual, whether they are tangential to historical happenings, current happenings. You're the artist. You drive the boat.